Let's talk about how leadership pressures can lead to imposter syndrome and burnout. There are so many pressures that leaders have to experience for the most part. There's having high expectations, not just from themselves, but from other people, having to take on a lot of responsibility, not just to strategize and think of ideas to make things better, innovate, right? Creative problem solving, but to be able to instill those skills on those that they lead and make sure that what they are showing them is actually translating into the results that are intended to be had. And so not only are they having to manage others, they're having to manage themselves. And there's pressure involved by that feeling that you have to be able to show up, take the lead. Doesn't matter what's going on, doesn't matter if you're having a hard time in your personal life, doesn't matter if you are struggling, stressed out, none of that matters, right? At the end of the day, you have to show up and give it your all. And so that pressure can really take a toll on you. For example, if you are experiencing a lot of stress, you can end up burnt out. And about 50% of leaders at some point have expressed that they are burnt out. And burnout is basically when you have too many demands and not enough resources, both internal and external, to help you navigate them. It's chronic, it's debilitating, and it's consistent across time. And before you know it, you are burned out. And there are three signs that I want you to be aware of, that when you have these pressures on you, the weight of the world on you, basically, and let's not forget about the pressure to be there at home on top of being there at work. Where do you come in? And so there's also this sense of loss of identity when you have to take care of all the different things professionally and personally, work, family. You end up coming up last. And that's a recipe for burnout. So when you're not able to meet these high expectations, these constant demands for results, it can lead to decision fatigue. Cognitive load is excessive. You are not able to think clearly. Burnout is actually one of those, is represents one of those components. So when you are worn out, I'm not talking just physically worn out, mentally worn out. You just don't have the capacity to make decisions quickly and effectively and efficiently the way that you used to. Why is that? Because you're overwhelmed, because you're exhausted. You've got too many things coming at you at the same time that you have to manage, fires that you have to put out. There's also a sense of isolation and feeling like you can't really go to anyone to talk about how you're feeling because of the perception that they might have of you. Hello, imposter syndrome. The perception that they might think, oh, well, she can't handle it. She might not be as competent as we all thought she were. She can't handle the heat. Maybe it's too much for her. And so that sense of feeling like an intellectual fraud, it takes a toll on your confidence in your competence as a leader, as a decision maker, as a strategizer. You're just a person, by the way. Just because you're a leader doesn't make you immune to some of the challenges that everybody faces. I know that I'm not immune to a lot of things. I've experienced burnout. I know what it's like to feel stressed out now. You have to be able to manage it so that it doesn't get to the point where I've been before. I've been burnt out. It's not fun. It is going to be hard to reverse that and get out of it. So it's best if you just focus on prevention rather than intervention, because with prevention, you won't have as many negative consequences. Intervention is usually at the point where something is falling apart big time, whether it be your position is at risk because of your performance. Hope that doesn't ever happen to you. Whether it be your personal relationship suffering because you're not present, you don't have enough left in you to share with them. I've seen that get as bad as like the D word, close to being divorced. It is not fun. It's horrible. And a lot of leaders tell me that that's not what they wanted, but it's kind of the side effect of having all these responsibilities and all these pressures to perform, that they were very narrow focused, trying to just get their responsibilities met, that they neglected their personal life, including their relationships. They neglect their physical health. They neglect their mental health. And this is just a recipe for disaster, because if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't engage in self-leadership and learn how to handle these pressures better, it's just going to come out as ineffectiveness, mistakes, lack of presence, inability to lead other people, because you just got too many things going on. You don't have anything left to give. You don't have a lot of fuel that you can share with other people. You might be in a meeting with someone and you're like in la la land. You've gone somewhere else. That's your brain kind of shutting off because it cannot receive any more input. And so it's like you're meeting with someone and it's like, wah, 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 wah. That's what you hear. Has that ever happened to you? A lot of people, when I say that, they're like, how do you know? It's like you're in my head. I know, because this is what I experience a lot. Not me personally. I have in the past, but I experience this a lot when people tell me. That's the experience that I have, being able to help other people navigate through this from a psychological lens. I'm a psychologist, so that's what I do. And so being able to shift the way that you perceive responsibilities, not from a place of pressure, but from a place of pleasure, it being pleasurable, it being an honor to lead, to have your vision come to life with the team that you lead, to strategize, to think of ideas of how to make things better and more effective and efficient, get things quicker, results, outcomes, find ways to improvise with what you've got. It requires a lot of mental space. It's very different from a doer. A doer just has to get the work done. A strategizer, a leader, has to have the bandwidth to sit down and think about these things, to plan, to come up with ideas. It's a lot harder to do that than to just sit down at your computer and do the work. And this is what's called upon you to have to do. And when you don't feel like you're able to do that, imposter syndrome comes knocking on the door. What is imposter syndrome? It's basically when you don't feel as competent as people think you are. You don't feel like you're the person on that resume depicting all your achievements, all your successes, the recognitions, the awards that you've gotten. Part of you feels like, do I really deserve this? Is that really me? I have felt that way before. When I've had my bio read, when I do speaking engagements, I hear that and I'm like, is that really me? Because that person sounds impressive. I feel like a normal human being. And we are, I am, we are. And somehow we expect ourselves, we put pressure on ourselves to show up as superhuman, just because we have to handle the weight of the world at work and at home. We're only one person. And you're more than just a professional, a partner, and a parent. You're a person who is susceptible as a leader to experience imposter syndrome and burnout. And they go hand in hand. If you don't feel competent, if you feel like you just got lucky to be in this position, if you feel pressure to perform, that's going to cause you to burn out, because you're going to put in a lot more effort, work nights and weekends, get up early, holidays, you know the drill. And when you're burnt out, guess what happens? Your performance decreases. And when your performance decreases, your confidence decreases. So they just tag team with each other and make each other a huge mess for you. And I want you to be able to avoid that. So what can we do about this? Well, let me give you some suggestions. Because we want to be able to protect your mental health. We want to be able to protect your relationships from the effects of burnout and overworking because you feel like an imposter. We want to be able to protect the hard-earned career that you have spent so much time, blood, sweat, tears, years developing, your career development. You've gotten to this point. You don't want to give that up, but it's really frustrating. It feels like it's more stressful than fulfilling. And it doesn't have to be this way. So some of the things that I want you to consider doing is increase your confidence in your competence. How do you do that? Several ways, but I'll give you a couple. Number one, I want you to have a brag book. This is basically a notebook where at the end of each day, you write down a win. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be something small. I gave a great idea in a meeting about XYZ. It was well received. And then at the end of the week, you'll have 5, 7 different wins that you can look at, and you're going to be like, you know what? I did that. And you will remember that you did that because it was recent. It's so easy for us to forget what we have accomplished. We tend to focus on the next goalpost and the next one and the next one. And it's like we're never satisfied with everything that we've accomplished. And we focus on what's still missing, on our deficiencies, on our mistakes. And so that's why it's really important that you don't let that part affect your sense of confidence in your competence. So make sure you keep a brag book. The other thing that I want you to do is to ask yourself, is this really true? Is it true that I'm not competent? Is it true that I'm not up to the challenge here, that I don't have what it takes to make this happen? And find evidence of the contrary. Why is it that you're meant to do this? Why is it that you have what it takes to make this happen? What prior experiences have you had that you can bring into the situation that will help you move forward and get the outcomes that you're striving for? So that's what I want you to do for imposter syndrome. Now, for burnout, we have to have strategic and sustainable self-care routines. A lot of times people wait until they have a huge chunk of time to engage in their mental health, in their self-care, in physical activity. And that doesn't have to be the case. In fact, I don't want you to find an hour every day to meditate, work out, journal. I want you to just find 5 minutes a day. Yes, 5 minutes. Because you know what's going to end up happening? Your brain is going to say, I can do that. It's just 5 minutes. It's going to feel doable. And then once you start doing it every day, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, you're going to see how it's beneficial to you. And you're going to crave it more. You're going to want to do it a lot more often. And that's going to create a sustainable self-care routine. It could be as simple as taking 5 minutes in between 2 meetings, your 2 heaviest meetings, to go take a little walk or just stretch for 5 minutes in between meetings that have been really taxing. It could be after work, taking, instead of taking a bath, take a bubble bath. I don't know. You figure it out. Something that just takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes of jumping jacks, of sitting down and writing, free writing, just whatever comes to mind. What ends up happening is your brain will put on paper what it's thinking about that's kind of keeping you up at night, going in circles in your head, not letting you focus on the task at hand, not let you get the creative juices going because your brain is so focused on problems. Not solving problems to move forward, but just problems like, I have to do this, I have to do that. Why can't I this? Why can't I that? And it's exhausting. So I want you to have 5 minutes. And then before you know it, you're going to want 10 minutes because you're going to see the results. Just notice at the end of the day, after you do this for like a week, you'll start to notice the difference. You'll have more energy. You'll be in a better mood. You'll be able to think faster, make quicker decisions, feel more confident in how you're showing up, your executive presence. So give that a try. I am convinced that it will help you out quite a bit. Don't let this continue any longer than it has to. These pressures, these responsibilities, they're real. Oftentimes, a lot of them, not all of them, they come with the territory. But it's how you let them affect you, what you do with it. If you let them make you feel like a fraud, if you don't handle the stress and the pressures and the responsibilities adequately, and they just keep tumbling and tumbling on top of you, you have to be able to let them off your shoulders. And the way to do that, at least one way, is to engage in a sustainable self-care routine. Start off with 5 minutes. That's it. Okay? You don't have to overcommit. I know you're a high achiever. That's why you're a leader. You're going to want to wait until you can do a whole 30 minutes, an hour. Don't do that. You will set yourself up for failure and disappointment in yourself. No. 5 minutes. Can you do 5 minutes? If you want, you can send me a message and I'll give you some ideas as to what that could be based on your work schedule, your interests, challenges that you're experiencing, the type of stress that's making you feel really exhausted, the type of pressures that you're experiencing. We can come up with a custom plan for you to engage in sustainable self-care. If that sounds good to you, all you have to do is send me a message and I'm happy to give you some ideas. See you later. Bye.